Hey there, seventh grade. We're looking at challenge 10. Believe it or not, we're on challenge 10. That's amazing. And today, this one is fun in my mind because we're going to combine some of the elements that we've put together so far into a program that does multiple things, uses a couple different sensors to do a couple different things. So I've called it my Roomba is tired. I'm also thinking about this as leaving the loop, which means we're going to use a different kind of loop in this program than we've used before. We've used a count loop and we've used an unlimited loop, but we're going to use a conditional loop in this program, which is something new, but something powerful in programming everywhere. So let's get right into this and take a look. So Roomba, we've written the Roomba program before, but this time we're going to make a variation of it. So we're looking to write a variation of the Roomba program. We still expect the robot to work using the IR sensor. But now we want the robot to stop moving around when it finds the charger base. And I put that in quotation marks. It's not actually the charger base, but we're going to pretend that it's the charger base. So we're gonna use a red spot on the floor as the charger base. And if you're thinking red spot on the floor, you should be thinking, that sounds like we probably are going to use the color sensor. And you're absolutely right. That's what we're going to do. So the robot must use the IR sensor to avoid obstacles, right? And we've done that before in our Roomba program. Number two, robot must be able to move around the area without running into obstacles, which is, again, pretty much the same thing as one, which makes me wonder, why did I have it there? But number three, robot must travel continuously until it finds the charger. Until it finds the charger is the big thing. Robot must use the color sensor to find the charger. Again, that was kind of obvious when we said it's a red spot on the floor. And the robot should plug in some way when it finds the charger. And we'll talk about that as we start writing this program. So that's the basics of what we're looking at. And again, I'm calling this Roomba Charge or Charge Your Roomba, my Roomba's tired. Any of those things is fine. So here we go to our programming interface. And again, we're going to bring in a loop to start, right? So again, our Roomba needs to move continuously until it finds the charger base, right? So if we go back to that Roomba program, we remember we used a switch next, right? And we set that switch up with the infrared sensor, compare, and proximity. We left it on less than, and then we changed from 50 to 40 to make that distance a little bit shorter that it's looking at, okay? Now, before we go any further, before we talk about what code we should have in our switch or any of that, what I want to talk about first is how do we make this program leave the loop, right? Right now it's on an unlimited loop, but we want to set the loop up so that it leaves conditionally based on when it sees red. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to click on the loop itself, right, where it says unlimited for me. And look, we can use all the different sensors that we use in our switch in our loop as well. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go color sensor and color. Specifically, we're going to look for red, and that comes up as the default right away, so we're good to go, right? We don't even need to change that to a different color. We'll look just for red. So this loop will continue forever and ever until this sensor sees red. Once it sees red, it's going to leave the loop and then do whatever else that we program it to do after the loop, which will be the charging moment. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about the switch, though. In our if then else statement, we're looking at, okay, so what should we do if we're too close, right? So this is less than or equal to less than 40% of our viewable range. When we get to that point, we want to do a couple things, and we talked about this before. We definitely want to back up, right? So let's start with backup, and we'll go a -1 rotation to do that backup. And then we also want to turn so that we just don't go straight back forward. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So that's a pretty decent program. Some of us have done things like add a horn or a backup sound, or that's one that I liked recently. I saw somebody use the backing alert. Right? It was fun. Sounds like a truck backing up, right? So we got the backup alert. We're going to back up and then turn, and then we'll continue in our program, right? And if we're not too close, what is it we should? Well, if we're not too close to something, we should just be vacuuming, right? Just moving forward. So that would be just a move tank, and we could set that move tank up in the normal fashion, like that. Now, if you're actually using the program, if you're actually going to be able to plug your computer into the robot and put that program on the robot, this won't do it. But if you're digital, if we're virtual and you need to take a screenshot, this is the way to do that. Again, if you're working on this in class, again, this would need to go right there in that switch bar in the X path, right? If it's not too close, we're just going to keep moving, right? But but there's a good chance if we're watching this video, we're virtual, and as a result of being virtual, we need to be able to do that switch. Excuse me. We need to make sure that Mr. Emerson knows the code that we've got in the X path, and putting it underneath is the easiest way to do that. Okay. What's next? Well, what do we do when we leave the loop, right? So we need to charge in some way. Now, how you charge is completely up to you. This is kind of like the victory celebration we did before when we were programming specific motion. So you can do anything you want here, but it has to be recognizable as you're charging, right? So there's a lot of ways to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around, right? So I'm going to do a 90-degree rotation, but I'm going to do 2 of those. So that it's a full 180, right? So I'm turning all the way around, and then I'm going to back up a tiny little bit into the charger port, or at least that's what I'm going to tell myself. I'm just pop it here and then wire it in. And then that's going to be a -1, so negative 0.5 I'll go. So it's going to back up a tiny little bit, right? So it turns around and backs into the charger, or at least that's what I'm pretending that it's doing, right? You could add other things. A lot of you like sounds. I'm sure there's a sound. You could figure out a good sound to add for charging, right? There's other things you could do as well. But that's what we're looking at. You need to do some kind of event that demonstrates that you're charging once you've found the red spot on the floor. Again, this program should work pretty well. I completely invite you to make your own tweaks, changes, modifications, so that you think so that the program runs exactly the way you want it to. And that is absolutely the beauty of programming. There's more than one way to solve any problem that we see. Screenshot of your code, put that in the exit ticket, submit your exit ticket. I'm excited to see the programs you're writing for Roomba Charge. That's it, guys.